So how do you actually trust an AI that, let's be honest, sometimes just makes things up? It's a huge question. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, give you a simple framework to use these incredibly powerful tools, safely. Let's get into it. To really get what's at stake here, we have to start with a wild but true story. Just last year, a lawyer in the US filed a legal brief in federal court. Looked great, well-written, really persuasive, and it cited 6 different legal cases as precedent. The only tiny problem, every single one of those cases was completely fake.
I mean, just look at this one. Varghese v. China Southern Airlines. It sounds totally legit, right? It had a docket number, a detailed legal summary, everything you'd expect. But nope, it was created out of thin air.
So that's the big question, isn't it? If the lawyer didn't just sit down and invent these cases himself, where on earth did they actually come from?
You guessed it, they were invented by ChatGPT. The lawyer had used the AI to help with his legal research, and it just confidently spat out this list of impressive-sounding but 100% fake legal citations.
Now, you hear this story a lot, and it's usually told as this scary warning about the dangers of AI. But honestly, that kind of misses the point. This isn't really a story about AI being dangerous. It's a story about verification.
And this gets to a really important distinction we have to make. The AI wasn't lying. I mean, to lie, you kind of have to know what the truth is in the first place. The model was just doing its job. It was predicting the most statistically likely words to come next based on the prompt. And in this case, a plausible-sounding legal case name was just the most probable text.
Okay, this leads us to maybe the single most important mental shift you need to make when you're working with AI. You have to understand that this behavior, it's a feature, not a bug.
There's an official term for this. You've probably heard it. It's called hallucination. And it's just this tendency for an AI to generate text that sounds right because, it's statistically probable, even if it's got absolutely no connection to reality.
This quote from our source material just nails it. The exact same mechanism that allows an AI to write a beautiful poem or a brilliant piece of code is the one that causes it to invent fake legal cases. It's like creativity and hallucination are two sides of the very same coin.
And this is tricky because it completely breaks a mental shortcut that we humans have used forever. You know how we instinctively think that if someone speaks or writes really fluently and confidently, they must know what they're talking about? Fluency equals expertise? Well, with AI, that link is totally severed. The fluency is always, always high, but the accuracy, that can be all over the map.
So the bottom line here is this. You can't just sit around and wait for the developers to fix hallucinations. Seriously, if you do that, you're going to be waiting on the sidelines forever. The real skill isn't about getting rid of this behavior, it's about designing your process around it. Which, of course, brings us to the big practical question. If this is just part of the tech, how in the world do we manage it? How do we use these tools without getting ourselves into trouble?
Well, the answer is a really simple but incredibly powerful framework that we're calling the verification ladder.
The whole idea starts by changing the question we ask. We need to stop asking a simple yes or no question like, is this AI output true? Instead, we need to ask something way more useful. Okay, based on what I'm trying to do here, what level of verification does this actually need?
So the ladder has 4 rungs, and each one represents a different level of risk. Your job really is to just figure out which rung your task sits on. It goes all the way from 0 stakes up to super high stakes.
All right, so how do we actually put this thing into practice? Let's break down how to use this ladder rung by rung. Okay, this chart basically lays out the entire system. So rung 1, that's for 0 stakes stuff, like brainstorming 50 blog post ideas. Here, your mindset should just be trust freely. If one of the ideas is a little weird, who cares? It's just an idea. Then you've got rung 2, low stakes. Think summarizing your own meeting notes for an internal email. Here, you trust the output, but you give it a quick sanity check. Does that basically look right? Cool. Now, rung 3 is where it gets serious, meaningful stakes. This is stuff you're going to publish or an analysis for a client. Your posture here has to be trust, but only after a serious human review. You've got to check every key fact. And finally, rung 4, the highest stakes, things like legal filings or medical advice. For these, you only trust the output after you verify it with an authoritative tool of record, like a proper legal database or official clinical guidelines. The AI can give you a first draft, sure, but it is not the source of truth.
And if you're ever not sure which rung a task is on, here are 2 super simple tests. First, the consequences test.
Just ask yourself, if this output is wrong, what's the worst that could happen? Second, the audience test. Who is actually going to see this? The bigger the consequences or the more public the audience, the higher you need to climb on that ladder. Simple.
And this brings us right back to the beginning. The lawyer's huge mistake wasn't that he used AI. His mistake was a classic rung mismatch. He was doing rung 4 work, a legal filing in a federal court, but he used a rung 1 verification posture. He just trusted it freely.
Once you start thinking this way, it really does change your whole relationship with these tools. It helps you build a new, and frankly, much smarter way to trust them.
See, trust stops being this big, scary, all-or-nothing thing. It becomes granular. It's specific. You don't have to decide if you trust AI as a concept. You just have to decide if you trust this particular output for this particular task, with the right level of verification applied.
And once you adopt this mindset, you realize something pretty profound. The AI hallucinating, the AI making things up, that's not actually the fundamental problem that we need to solve.
The real failure mode is rung confusion. It's about applying the wrong verification standard to the task you're doing. That's the mistake that gets people into trouble, and it's the one we can all learn how to avoid.
So we'll just leave you with that one simple question. The very next time you go to use an AI tool, before you even start typing your prompt, just pause and ask yourself, what rung is this on? Answering that one question first will change everything about how you work with these tools